cases, those support plans are rewritten on a frequent basis. Other times they're written on an annual basis. And so we wanted to make sure that we're accounting for, if they're only written on an annual basis, we're still meeting that requirement. So that's what we've added in terms of a proposal.
Understood.
But the notification, which I think is the main area that you were advocating for, we've agreed to that.
No questions. You look like you've got the word access. So it said, before it said access to it, and now it just says that in the notification.
Actually,
Oh, it's in the second, it was really, okay, sorry.
and there were a few spots in the contract, we were finding some language from yours missing or like moved. So everything here should be pulled directly from the original contract with anything highlighted changed.
And just to say it out loud, because I know you guys talk with the principals to go over changes. And a notification doesn't preempt that if there is a brand new IEP written during the year, the expectation for administrators to notify staff at that time as well.
Well, and they're written throughout the year annually, so it won't, there'll be times when those are revised, after the first day of school, and so that notification.
Right, I was thinking, like, you tell them annually, but then you halfway through the year, and brand new student has a brand new IEP, you still have to tell them about the new kiddos too.
Yeah, I think we're trying to be on the front end of that annual notice, but we also recognize that some of them only happen annually.
Okay.
Okay, Article 7. We're in agreement on the 21 calendar days. Seven, 0.9.3.
2.2, right? Right, I'm just making sure we're still.
Yeah, that was already,
Okay.
That's the same as your green is our yellow. Yep. On 7.9.3B, we're okay with the 10 working days. Which is the proposal. And then we also were in agreement on the fields in yellow, striking that paragraph. Article 8. We were in agreement on an employee may attach a written response to any information posted in the personnel files. But we wanted to maintain the 2 consecutive years. Again, just allowing the district to identify if there's a pattern of behavior. And we again wanted to maintain the may have access. Just again, not to withhold people, information from people, but just availability of staff to get into personnel files.
So on 8.2, you want the 2 consecutive years?
No,
Okay,
No,
that's what I told you. Okay.
Did
I
I
was
say,
waiting to see if you're.
did I say two?
You did, that's what I was saying.
Hey,
Okay.
On the original language.
and you're not interested in that last sentence that we changed, just dealing with prison discipline. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the clarification.
Thanks for asking. Trying my best to maintain all of it. So the next one is under 9.2, and what we'd like to do, again, understanding what we understand as the concern or believe is the concern. We were hoping that Mary and Lexi could meet together, Lexi and HR, and to put together a communication on how to utilize the system. And then that's something Mary could share out with her staff, and with, her association, so that people have the information about how to access that. Rather than create new systems to do that, to just provide folks with some education. And we thought it would be best coming from Mary, but Lexi there to support it for sure. So we're not interested in, different language necessarily, but we want to work on how to account for that.
All right, we'll discuss that in caucus.
And the language we had in green, so I think we get to move on to 10. So do you want to go around compensation now, or do you want to wait till the end? I kind of feel the same way. All right.
So we just skip it.
No, because we're gonna skip the salary schedule, but I think we can do the other pieces. So, so we are open to changing from the top 3 languages to the top 5 languages. And then one of the pieces we added was just some clarification. The responsibility of the employee to contact the Human Resources Department to schedule an assessment of language proficiency. But the effective date of the additional step will be based on the date of request. So one of the other things we heard is that sometimes it takes a while to get through the process. And so we would go back to when that request came in. And I believe the two additional languages are Korean and Hmong, makes the top 5.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Mm-hmm.
When new employees are hired, they aren't expected to ask for the assessment. That would be part of the hiring where you ask the language teacher. And then you guys would contact them and schedule that case for very new employees. This is for individuals going back.
And what I want you to know is we don't specifically ask verbally. It's on the application that they indicate. If they indicate it there, then that's what we work on.
Okay, so you guys will reach out based on that.
Absolutely.
So I see didn't take up our language on the people that are pulled into duties. How do we handle that? How do you envision that happening? The person is supposed to goes home and we know this person is custodial, this person has this language skill, but we really can't communicate with this other parent or whatever. How would we handle that scenario? I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
What section are you
It's actually in ours.
So one of the things we've tried to do to account for that is to add additional step for anybody who has showed language acquisition.
Okay.
And so we feel like we've already tried to account for that and compensate that in prior agreements.
Okay, so if I'm that person that we just got started and, I have that language, you're not gonna require me to come speak to that person, and translate it. If I don't have additional staff, is that a fair way to say that?
We believe that everybody who has shown proficiency has the staff.
Okay,
So I think we would rely on those folks because that's what our understanding is right now, and also recognizing that we're going to have 2 additional languages that are added to.
right, so that'll add to your list.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, to follow up one more clarifying. That would be true for the top 5 languages, but if you are pulling an employee to transfer for a student for Russian or French or any of those, there's not an extra step in place. I'm not arguing whether you agree or not, but I'm just pointing out that it does only apply that extra step for those in the top 5 languages. So we have a lot of employees, a lot of languages that do get pulled into that.
Then the other 2 areas there are the 2 that we're in green already. So the 4 to 7 and the 8 down below. And then step advancement. Was language that you proposed that we're in agreement on. And then on the next page, with regards to education attainment, what we've tried to do is twofold. One is recognizing what I believe was sort of the intention of thinking about a schedule that doesn't have columns for degree attainment. And so we've added those degrees there. And then we've also added some language because which in a lot of ways aligns with our certified language in order to account for folks bringing that information forward. So if you want to take a moment to read through that or read through it, caucus. Again, our intention is to provide clarity and also account for some of the pay periods and individual responsibilities that are forward.
Yeah, we'll wait through the caucus. I appreciate you coming back with something. We'll have a question with like sidebar, yeah.
Sounds good.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
Is there a reason why you chose to exclude the certification or license bonus from this table?
Yeah, so all the examples that were there were, we saw them as either job responsibility, like responsibilities in applying for that position, that you had to have that skill, or it was a skill or a certification that the district had paid for the person to earn. And so as we talked through all of the various scenarios, that was what we continued to bump up against. And so we wanted to bring back a proposal that accounted for what we thought we heard, what we had heard, and also account for the fact that many certifications are coming from either a requirement as an application in the application process to show certification, or if it was something the district had paid for the person to earn.
Thank you.
Yeah. We talked a lot about that, so it wasn't easy. Again, working out a classification, the word working is fine. And the same thing around working comes up 2 other times, so those were all okay. And then still in 10.5, we had agreement, I believe, around the striking 1 paragraph and adding a 2nd paragraph.
So just make a shorter time. 10.3.1, we all agreed to this to be, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Don't apologize. I'm
Stay on
having
track.
a hard enough time staying on track myself. I'm the one talking. And she's telling me
Hold up.
to slow my roll.
Well, I know, but there's not actually a 10.3.1 in the contract.
No, we'd added
So I
it.
think maybe it was some language you put in and then
Right.
decided not to bring back.
We added it and then we dropped it in the
Okay.
previous proposal. And just to be the point of clarification on.
You're not wanting working out of classification, is that what you mean?
No, we were gonna renumber them. I think it's how
Oh.
we felt it would go better in that spot.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and then we deleted it later.
Okay.
Just for point of clarification here on the 2 paragraphs, the one struck through and the one not in 10.5. You have red line, we have red circled. The connotation was red line. We prefer to use red circled if that's possible.
Okay.
I don't think it's a massive difference, but
No.
Which one are you talking about?
10.5.2, like way down there, we have the struck out solid placement, on longevity, we struck that out, and put the language returning retirees. And if you go down to the 3rd sentence in that group, it says red circles in ours, and it says red line in yours.
Oh,
And that's just to make people feel a little better about using red circle, since it doesn't have as much negative connotation.
That's the only difference I think it's the same concept, right?
It's exactly the same thing, it's just a better way to say it.
Yeah.
But it was a difference. It was good.
mhm.
Yep.
And longevity pay will come back to us. We talk about the salary schedule and salary. Which question here? So 10,
10-9 we're in agreement.
yeah. 10-14, we've already talked through that one.
We're skipping 10-6 right now. Yes, I'm in the conversation. Yeah.
Fingerprints, we have an agreement on. And around insurance for the October 1st open enrollment period. Are you gonna be tracking? Okay. So 10-16, what we're proposing is we would like, well, we're caucusing to have some kind of work on MOU language around that one. It's something that we have interest in working together on, but we just want to have time to work on an MOU.
Is that the weaponized
It's the hazardous situation.
or kind of situation like that?
Yeah,
We lose some things, I'm losing the numbers there.
that's okay.
All right.
That's what we're thinking there.
I think that's reasonable.
Insurance, I just talked about. Around holidays, we haven't made any changes from our previous proposal. As an example, Indigenous Peoples' Day is a school day, so we have students in school. It's aligned with our teaching, get our teachers' holiday schedule as well. So we're certified, so we're proposing leaving that as it is.
So the concern there is that if you disrupt that, then you have to basically have another day without teaching
Or we'd have to
get
attack a
both
day.
the same.
We'd have to attack a day on the end
On the end of the year.
for
Okay.
instructional hours that we.
Thank you for clarification.
Yeah. And we want to maintain the language that we have in the around Juneteenth. All right, around vacation, we made some changes there. We're okay dropping that paragraph below the chart, and then in the chart, we made changes. So the 0 to 2 would be the 10 days. 3 to 9 would be up to 15. Up from 10 to 15% of those groups. And then 10 to 14 would be 17, and 15 and over would be 20.
Okay.
Still movement there as well. And then we have the same language under 13.3.4. And then the 13.3.5. Anything to say about that?
I think that's just continued language we're proposing moving forward, just so there's no advance notice, so there can be planning for.
Is this the case where that language you have in yellow was existing language, it just wasn't in our notes?
Which one?
Of 13.3.5?
That's new language we proposed a couple times ago,
Okay.
so we're just continuing to bring that forward.
Around bereavement leave, we're proposing that we maintain the current language. We feel like it is working. And so not to make changes there. Under 14.2.1, the
It's not, I don't know.
So maintaining current language there.
We had it in blue, do that one.
That was new language you brought forward this last time. Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with conversations.
That was where I was thinking, so.
Yep.
Perfect, okay. So then 14.3, again, we are gonna propose what we moved it up from last time, which is 3 closure days rather than 7.
So just to clarify, you're not moving on that, because 3 was in your July 8th proposal as well.
Yeah, but we've been at 2 in the last contract, so we moved up to
You're at one.
1 to
Yeah.
3. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, yes, Anne, how's that?
And so in 14.2.5 was workable contract, we get struck, you're not interested in that, correct?
Yeah,
Thank you.
yes, we're not interested. Just not to sound flippant, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, sure, I think that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
So actually, let me ask for a question of 14.42. So we had struck out personal leave in a couple different areas. Is the intent that district wants to keep that in case it goes beyond 3 days? Is that why you want to keep that on the agenda? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the other thing to recognize is the district, depending on how many days, can make the days up. And so we also keep that in mind too. We're not looking to hurt our employees. We also have to count the instructional hours and a whole lot.
Sure.
To consider. So wanting that flexibility.
Yeah.
And then you can see here, gender pronoun changes, the normal work hours, we're gonna be in on that. And then the 15 minutes. Under jury duty, it's another area where understand the language proposals that we don't see a problem with the current contract language, and so we're wanting to maintain current language there.
Okay.
And jury duty is the one we call legal leave.
No, the
Very
14.8. So I didn't incorporate every section if it wasn't, that just a safe paper.
Okay,
So sorry, Marcy.
I'm like listening and looking and I'm looking and because I'm getting lost, so I just apologize.
And I'm just trying to get more context
I love that.
where we're not, where we haven't moved, but also explain what we have. Legal leave, I think we were in agreement, because there's some green language there that we're all okay with. We're wanting to maintain our current proposed language around leave without pay, legal taxes. Fourteen 11, we're okay to strike that first. The information that you wanted pulled,
Yeah.
okay with that. But not on the 1411.
Not your-
No. We're okay dropping, if you go to 15, sick leave bank, we're okay dropping the limited term. We've already agreed to notice to the Human Research Department of the union. On 15.5, we have a counter, and that is the employees may be only up to 100 hours, so it's a new bank at the employee's discretion.
Appreciate that.
And then 15.6, we had agreement on temporary or rental in the things. And the big P for president. Under 16, we want to maintain under A current contract language. Then we have a bunch that was. Wait a minute,
I think the rest was great.
yeah. Yep, I think so too. Seventeen, the first page is all green.
Why don't I put 16? They're just like an ask a question on the line. On 16.1A, we had asked about adding in the wording to this, so for the people that apply to the fund for the renewal fee, the license costs involved with maintaining certification fees for their dog. And is there just kind of a why about the no interest?
I think if we think about other groups like our teaching group, they have to renew licenses as well. And so I think we're just concerned about the overall cost moving forward of the fees component.
The other piece to that, Marcy, is typically it's a specific department. That department will help pay for the cost of that versus taking it from this pool of money. So that would be the other piece of that.
Yeah, so it's kind of a combo of both of those pieces. Maybe management committee. There's nothing on the first page of your proposal, so you get to 17.7. And we're okay with the language that you proposed there.
That's something
Yeah, we did.
No, we did have some.
Yeah, so this was just a notification to their meeting supervisor in advance of the meeting date sometimes, just because it has come up in the past. And so we wanted to be able to ensure that there's communication happening on that. Okay. So that takes us to 18. And on this one, we maintained not adding the additional costs around the booths, but we have made changes again on the number of shirts. And so we're still at that spot on article.
I'm going to take a drink of water for a second.
Around probationary period, we want to maintain the current language at 9 months on the job. And if you think about summer breaks and some of those pieces, with 6 months, if you were to be over the break, you don't only have 3 months with the person who did like that was enough time. Around Article 20.
So before we go to 20, can I ask a quick question? So
On 19.
19, yeah, probation. So your concern you brought up, like if it's 9 months, you have, if they have spring break or something, you don't lose that. You lose that time already, but if you shorten it, you'll make it even shorter, right?
Yeah.
What if just having a discussion here, just thinking out loud, if there was an exception in there for the 6 month and that explicit carve out, would that help to alleviate that concern?
I think part of it, when we talk about also just the school years of roughly 9 months, and so to be able to see someone over that period of time, The other thing is our other employee groups, which we hear a lot of reference to trying to align, are much longer. So our non-over a year, any license is up to 3 years.
Fred
So-
law, though.
Well, right,
Yeah.
but so really wanting to be able to see sort of that whole scope of what individuals do.
Well, thank you for that.
And several years ago, it used to be a year, so we already moved it down from a year to 9 months.
So you're saying you're willing to?
Article 20, we're okay with the change in, or dropping the playground in both, title as well as the paragraph. Around just cause we wanted to maintain, the current language that we have.
We talked about the, well, we've changed from 3 months to 45 days for the probationary.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So where are we at with that? So I see three crossed out and 45 in blue, but months is crossed out, so it's 45 days.
That's our proposal. They're
So
not
we're leaving
accepting
it,
it.
you're saying we would keep.
They will keep the current offer.
And then we're gonna skip. Article 21. Article 22. So we'll jump to Article 23.
Yeah, 22.
Argue 1.
So we.
Okay, there we go.
So we struggled with this one. For the most part, it's because the previous article around safety was sort of kind of general, all encompassing safety measures in schools. And this changed it to be more sort of focused on student behavior. And so what we want to do, if we want to look at that MOU we're working on, and incorporate some of this language into that. Because again, I think as an example, down at the bottom, during this time, the employees excused for their job, the blue we've been working on and talking about. So it's something that we want to continue to move on, but we would want to move it into that MOU just because of the way that the contract typically flows. So that's what we're thinking there.
All right.
And then,
Is that part 6 too?
yeah,
Okay.
and that's a place where we're gonna look at the district behavior handbook, and if that's a piece that's incorporated there. So again, we're trying to make sure that all this information is accessible. It would also kind of fit in those places where people tend to go for it. So that's the piece there around 6.
And then 8, you're not interested in, right?
Now,
Okay, just making sure. All right, so we're off to 24.
off to 24.
Let me guess the first one we have to talk to the
I
attorney.
think You also struck 8 in your last.
Oh,
one
I-
as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, that's a thing that happened. It's still technical there for now. So that's normally I get completely off the page when we take it out.
Okay,
So,
well, okay.
and I'm guessing 24-1, we still waiting for the attorney. Okay. And probably 24-3.
No, we're still interested in a 3-year.
Well, 24-3, I struck out.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think depending on what we settle with was as far as any duration,
Mhm.
we decide the openers, what is that until we.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, you've given us some things to work with, darn sure. Still can't be each other this time.
Thanks.
Oh, finances. Oh, I'm trying to get.
So, what we're gonna talk about is, Olivia will walk us through, proposed salary schedule.
Okay.
This is year one, you still are very interested in a 3-year with a reopener, for the financial. So.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I have. I'm looking.
I just, smile, I can stop talking.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
All right,
Okay, the first hand, I just want to touch base on current salary schedule, just because it is kind of such a big driver in a lot of the cost calculations. So as you can see, our current salary schedule, it has 20 steps. It kind of looks like it has 15 steps, but it really has 20 steps because of the way some of these steps are numbered. So if somebody hired at, and in essence, if you're hired at step 1, it will take you 37 years to get to step 15. So we really are wanting to shorten that runway quite a bit. And so just keeping in mind that after step 6, those increases only happen every 3 years.
Yeah, we're short of these.
not current, but
State one.
the proposed.
There's
How many more proposed do you need? Kelly?
3 or more. Yeah.
All right, we can share it. So if you flip the current salary schedule over, you'll see what the percent between steps and the percent between ranges currently looks like. Before we did the fixed amount COLAs a few years ago, the structure was 2.5% up to step 6, 2% for step 7 through 9, and 1.5% for steps 10 through 15. So you can see how that's changed since we did fixed amount COLAs. Same with the percent between ranges. Back in the day, this was 5% across the board. So you can see how that's changed quite a bit as well as a result of the fixed amount COLAs. So just want to make sure we're all on the same page about the current salary schedule, how it works, what the technical components of it are, and the fact that it takes somebody, 37 years to get to the top step on that schedule. So the second handout is weird because it has a lot of blank pages, but that is what popped out on the printer. So the first page is what the district is proposing for a new salary schedule. So this would dramatically shorten the runway for people to reach the top step. So instead of taking 37 years to get to the top step, you would reach the top step on this schedule after 15 years. And you can kind of see above the headings, there's sort of a little crosswalk to correlate to what the old or previous step would be. So that's sort of what I use to determine how we know where people would live on the new salary schedule if we used this one. I heard it was important to address some longevity. So if you flip to the second page, you can see looking at sort of reintegrating some consistent structure so that we're still maintaining kind of a tiered structure and 2.5% between steps for the first 5 years, 2.25 between steps for the second 5 years, and then 2% for 11 through 15, with that 5% bump in the longevity zone, step, whatever we want to call it, but just in that area. You can also see an adjustment to realigning the percent between ranges so that they're all the same at 4.5%. And if you flip the page, I killed a lot of trees in the making of this. Lots of blank pages. using that same crosswalk, this just correlates what the change in hourly rate and before and after. Obviously, range 5, step 1 is 0 because that's our base rate and we wouldn't assume to modify that. But with the same percent between ranges and realigning the percent between steps, this is kind of what that looks like. If we were to shorten the runway, there's really no easy way to shorten that runway without clumping some staff together, just because when you have 37 and we're trying to go to 15, we only have about 4 people. Let me look, I want to make sure that's right. When I look at our scattergram of our current staff, we have so we currently have 9.91 FTE on step 15. So we have probably 10-ish people that are on step 15. We don't have any classified employees on 14 or 13 or 12. We have 3 people on 11 and 1 person on 10C. I'm kind of going back to my crosswalk here. So there's not a very kind of small group of people that would sort of be lumped into that longevity zone. The majority of our staff would fall into that, the step 1 through 15 of this schedule. So check my notes, make sure I covered all the points. So this schedule would provide for an annual step increase every year. Obviously, the current schedule allows for an annual step increase in the first 10 years, and then you only get a step increase every 3 years. So that's a pretty significant change as well. It's not reflected in this salary schedule just because we were trying to really compare apples to apples, but we are proposing to apply a 2.75% COLA to this proposed salary schedule, and looking at that whole package. It's like the equivalent of increasing our classified salaries by 5.33%. So when we kind of combine those two things as separate actions, the 2.75% COLA, the structural changes here, really what we're putting on the table is increasing classified salaries by 5.22%. Let me know if you have any questions about like crosswalking, or if you want to run through a couple of examples. I can run through a couple of examples if that would help.
I just have a little bit of, I'm just looking at myself. And looking at what I am at now, it would be a $2 an hour drop at that level. I mean, if you're looking at what this was and what that was, what do you do? How does that?
Actually, I pulled you as an example.
I don't help me. Because if I can understand.
In my eyes, Mary, you're employee C. So
Okay.
you're currently on range 14 you're on step 8A. So your first year of step 8. So your current rate, current salary schedule, range 14, step 8A is 2683.
Yes.
On the new schedule, because you're on step 8A, we're going to crosswalk you. You're going to stay on range 14. And you're going to move to step 13. So at the base, the hourly rate goes up to 27.57. And then we're going to apply a 2.75% COLA to that rate, and that'll take you up to 28.33. So the increase in your hourly rate is $1.50 or 5.6%.
So everyone gets crosswalked.
Yeah, and the change for everyone is going to be different, a different percent. Yes, slightly.
That our lower range employees or new employees would get the lesser amount.
In this scenario, and we talked a lot about that, recognizing the last 2 times we've really focused on our newest employees. So yeah, it would be the opposite of the last 2.
Yeah, the percent increase goes up as you go down or as you go over.
And at some point we have to fix the structure of the schedule, just long term, like, given this, but we have to fix it for the long term.
Which is what we're trying to.
So clarification, or is this missing a page? I'm trying to find where your 2.75% COLA proposal or counter is located, and I'm just.
It's not, she said it's not on there.
I just did the math.
Yeah.
For that.
Okay.
So just.
Yeah. I wanted to start with comparing apples to apples, just to identify what we're trying to achieve with the structural changes. The COLA is kind of a,
In addition.
Second
to
step.
this thing, yeah.
yeah, I have it, I can print that, if it's helpful to see it.
And the ranges too, it had been 5%. Was there a reason for the in between range? It had always been, I know it didn't actually do it, but it was supposed to be 5%. Did it go to 4.5 because that's kind of where it fell, looking at what it actually was?
Yeah, because currently it ranges between 4.09 and 4.7% currently. Shifting it to 5 is pretty cost prohibitive for us at this point.
So when we started going to the actual adding a dollar amount versus a percentage, we really shifted all those wages and different steps.
Yeah.
Did, nobody would go backwards on this, right? We double check that, okay.
The change that would be the most simplistic is range 5, step 1. Because in that case, the change in the structure doesn't change it at all.
Mhm.
And then it's just the COLA that's applied to that. So that range and step would literally just change by 2.75%.
Okay.
The rest of them, then it all starts to, are still different.
So I asked the question, just for my understanding, is this an official proposal for you guys to change the schedule, or is it more informational than what's information?
No, this is an official proposal because we want to change the schedule as well. We want to shorten that runway. We want to simplify it. We want that consistency within it. Just the percent between ranges, the percent between steps. So I think that is an interest that we both have to improve that.
And this is in addition to the proposed COLA non-step.
Correct.
Yeah. It's 2.75 with that.
Right.
Clarify that.
Yeah. And I can, I should be able to print to a machine in here if you could something to see what the salary schedule would look like with the 2.75.
If you want to.
But it just kind of makes it more complicated to crosswalk. It's kind of easier to take it step by step.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing it this way. Now we'll jump
You
again.
ready to take us out?
I think we're ready to discuss that.
Yeah, you look.
What's that?
So the kindergarten kids over there.
Yeah, you're saying like, well, I money.
No.
We need it.
Sir, any other?
So I just wanted to check, in your proposal, you only want to draft an MOU for student behavior. Does that include, so are you trying to encompass the bodily fluids and materials MOU and the hazardous pay, and are you dropping the COVID pandemic pay and the extra preparation day MOU we proposed last time?
Yeah,
I just want to clarify which ones you are wanting to work on.
so the additional time is already built into the calendar that's out. So we felt like that was already in place. The COVID, hey, we did not want to continue with. We're working on the piece specific around.
Right, and that's looking at the current MOU that is listed, and then you have the other section of the contract and seeing how it will go together.
Right.
But
But the bodily fluids one, you did in that? I thought we'd agree to pull that up, put it at the back.
No, it's that one.
Oh, incorporate.
And.
Gosh. Yeah, I'm with you now.
Kind of honing it in the one spot.
Right.
Can you go over one more thing?
Sure.
Just so I, okay.
You want to do like a little example?
If I was, the 10 on step 2 points, call this out.
But then you get my calculator out.
So someone who's on what current?
2.5 level 10. So they
So
are
range 10,
1860.
and they're currently on step 2.5.
Mhm.
So they would move to step 4. same range,
What range are we looking at?
range 10,
Step
2.5, which becomes the new step 4,
1902.
Okay.
and
Okay.
then plus the 2.75.
So they go from 1862 to 1902.
So that's step 3, then. I'm on the wrong schedule.
That 2.5 goes to 4.
And then the 2.75 on top of that.
Okay, I'll make sure. There's a lot of money. We need a
Right
ruler.
now, we need to make sort of moves on it.
Okay.
Okay.
And then if you add 2.75% COLA to the 1902, that becomes 1954. 1954. 1954 divided by 1862 is 4.94%.
That's, you know,
Only, I think a little bit of a variant, that we deal with, you guys are interested in doing a 3-year contract. Not knowing if you need the financials with like such or not, did your proposal commission have any subsequent move forward, or were you not thinking that part of this?
Yeah, so part of it is by making this type of change in the salary schedule has a significant cost to it. So with that plus the COLA, we're at a place that first, let's see if we can come to agreement here, and then we're probably in our best interest for year 2 and 3 to talk about financials. Like that.
That's kind of where I was going.
Yeah. Understood.
yes.
Yeah, you're okay now. Go.
I good.
Okay. So do you want to go through and things you've agreed on?
You want us to take ours and you know, just-
Tentatively agreed and like, put it on the packet.
We can go through and read out the ones that were.
And we might have a few questions
Yeah.
and some of the ones just as we go through that we didn't, so that we did.
Okay.
Further review. Okay, so Article 1. We have agreed to tentatively agree on it based on what we've all said. So,
It's in your last proposal.
Okay,
Article 1 is
one for one.
one. And now Article 2. Article 2, we tentatively agreed on that one as well. We take out O. And the rest that we agreed on. So Article 2 is TA. So we just move along like this. This is like that's the whole discuss. I'll discuss it.
Sure.
Article 3, we agreed to take out 3.1 and we agree on that article as well.
Yeah.
Article 4 was the discussion that we had about using the services and then employee performance part that we would do with admin, with that, we agreed to Article 4.
Okay.
Article 5, we're going to bring forward for us, we need to have more discussion.
Okay.
We didn't want to get bogged down in this for now because it's just some things that are important to us that we want to look at.
Okay.
So we'll be bringing back Article 5. I don't think if there were any other questions on that one, I think we need discussion. Article 6. So you've agreed to. And so for TA, all of Article 6.
All of Article 6,
All of Article 6. Article 7, the same. And we agreed to all of Article 7. Article 8, we're going to bring back a change today, or,
We'll have a counter for you when we're done with TH there. I'll go through the counters.
okay, what is counters at the end? I got my page here. All righty. Staying with Article 9, correct?
No, 9 through 12, we won't have to read today, we'll have to read next.
Okay.
Yeah.
you said 8 through 12.
9 through 12, today, we'll have a counter for you on 8 today. And we'll be done with the TAs.
And on 12, we're going to have some discussion on something there. Just a question on it. So I have a lot of this to do.
It is. We'll talk about next one.
Well, we decided to leave it also.
Yes.
All right, Article 13, we've agreed to one of your last proposals, so the PA and Article 13, vacation. Article 14, we're going to have some more discussion. We'll wait on that one. Come back. Article 15, Second Bank, we've agreed to your proposal. The other changes you already made. So Article 15, we're tentatively agreed. This is the Second Bank. Okay, I have Article 16. We tentatively agree. That's all.
Yep.
Okay. So Article 16, we agree on that. All the changes both sides made. Article 17, joint labor management, we're going to changes for that. Article 18, we've agreed to what you've offered, and so we'll agree on that one as well. Article 19, we're going to come back to something, I believe.
Okay.
Article 20, we agreed to the changes on that. The Tennessee agreed Article 20, the eval discipline and dismissal article.
Okay.
And then, of course, 21 and 22 are seen later, for another time. And then 23, we can talk about having some more discussion on that.
And we're still
We're
working.
working on
And
that.
they're working on that one as well.
We didn't quite get done.
And same for us with the salary schedule. We need to have some more discussion in the next week on that. So see how far we get in the next week. So we only have a week to.
Okay.
And then we had a couple that were there. I told you to go over is Article 8.
So starting with Article 8, and we will send it to you electronically, so you have it here, you know, but
Okay.
they're not huge articles, so I'm hoping that they're not gonna be too hard for people to follow along with there. And they don't have the totals in front of them. So we wanted to get the language right to get back to you today. See if I can get there. All right, so on Article 8, we have restored the language in 8.2 with one exception. We went back to the 3 years, and in 8.3, we went back to the May, but we left that last sentence in there. However, any complaints at this point that are more than 3 years, we changed it to 3 to match above. All will not be used against the employer. We did leave that language in there. We feel that's important for our folks to have a chance to change their behavior and have that be forgotten. It'll be in the file, but not used against them. And then the other article we're coming back on is 19 per counter.
Maybe can I ask a question? though,
Absolutely.
before you jump ahead on that one? So, I understand an individual doesn't want something to kind of come back after, but what if it's the same type of behavior? Was there discussion about at least being able to have that conversation? Say, hey, we noticed 3 years ago this happened, so let's talk about kind of what's happening again now.
I don't think this, I mean, it's already made in the file, so it's gonna be part of their history, right? So I think it's totally legitimate for somebody to say, hey, okay, we're gonna give you further discipline, what's it happened before. I mean, you could do this every 3 years. I think that's a reasonable conversation to have, right? But nothing precludes you from doing that since you're not having to remove the file, right? So you still know their history. We're really just trying to say that, let's say it's something silly that they screwed up on, right? And let's say they screw up again in 3 years. And this isn't major stuff. It's just stuff that you have to be consistent and disciplined on. We want to make sure they have the chance to, put that behind them. If they don't ever know the problem, then great. But if they do, 3 years between instances feels like good space, but nothing would preclude that supervisor from talking about stuff in their file. You'd still be able to talk about it. You just wouldn't be able to say, because you did it 3 years ago, now you're doing it 4 years later, 3 years later, whatever, you can't, or 10 years later, that's really the point of this, right?
Right.
To give them a chance to screw up occasionally, but not, where it's so detrimental, the district can't function, right? So, but they could have that discussion based on what's in the file. Okay, and then 19, we heard what you said about why you want the 9 months, and we heard about the summer stuff. We heard about all that. We kind of came back with, we hope it's getting close to a middle ground. Maybe we're still saying 6 months, but we did add a sentence at the end, and you won't see it reflected, just so you know, because I haven't given it to you yet. That says that employees that don't work the summer months will not have that time included as part of their 6 month probationary period. Now, there might be a prettier way to say that, but you get the point of what we're trying to do there. We're trying to, you hire somebody in April, they work 2 months, and they're off 2 months, and then they work. I mean, I could see how that could create a problem. So for those employees, we would say, hey, it pauses when you get the last day of school. When you come back the first day of school the next year, if you're invited back, you can continue at that point. So kind of like the summer never happened, right? Whether as far as a probationary period is considered. And that's the only thing left in that. Everything else is either agreed to or proposal. So that's the only piece that we have left in there. Don't know if you want it or not.
Well, no, but can you help me
proposal.
understand what's so important about the 6 months?
I think it just brings you in line with a lot of your neighbors. 6 months seem to be pretty, I mean, there's places that have 90 days and 60 days as well, but that's a little more usual, right? 6 months seems to be kind of what most districts have in one fashion or another. Some of them have, some of them have these breaks for summer. language included, probably for the very reason Brian was, putting across there. But we want our folks to be able to work toward a goal and feel like, 6 months feels like a reasonable amount of time, the whole school year, which 9 months could be, feels a little more uncertainty. We want them to get to that point where they feel, okay, I know I'm gonna be here tomorrow. I have senior, unless I do something I shouldn't, right? I'm gonna be here tomorrow. I'm gonna have that security for me and my family. That's the intent here, is to get them closer to that goal line. So move the goal down low so they can get closer to it. That's the idea. I'm sorry.
All right.
And then that's our 2 counters, our TAs. I will electronically send you the 2 counters for today. We've got, it looks like about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1 you're coming back with. So we have about 7 more to get back to you. We wanted to get you some of the stuff, but since I think some of it's good news, I figured we could all use it. So, and what I'll do is I'll get the TAs. I've almost got them down here. I'll just send them to Mary electronically if that's okay, and then just Mary and Jennifer have to sign so they approve them and make sure that they're right, and we'll be done with those. And then I'll send the 2 counters to Ryan and Jennifer, and you can submit it for your team digitally, so you'll have it in Word. So if you need to manipulate it, you can. And then I think the rest of the time we'll work on trying to get the other one back to you.
Okay. And I see our next meeting's on the 16th, so will we be starting with your finish and then?
I've finished and then.
We're fine with
have
that.
anything else.
We're fine with that. But we could probably utilize a little bit of our time today to get started on some of this, if you guys are okay with that. We can keep the room for a little bit. Sure. Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, so we'll go back and.
You guys are welcome to continue with the conference room.
In the conference room or the room you're in? Well, conference room.
Did you talk to?